"What if I fall?" the man asks, looking nervously over the edge. "Oh, but my friend," a voice responds back, "what if you fly?" A little quote heard not too long ago, demonstrating humanity's proclivity to maintain, to preserve, to protect, to move away altogether from risk, for fear that they might lose their grip on the status quo. Completely forgetting to think about what life could become if things worked out. Forgetting that life is a game of trade-offs. And to fixate on never losing what you have means forfeiting the possibility. It is that simple. To stay is a refusal to go. People need to constantly reinforce the idea, the truth, that what they aren't doing is a decision. And while they place their energy and efforts on minimizing the falling and the failure, someone else is stepping into it. They're capitalizing on it. Falling again and again and again until they can fly. Because the danger is not in falling, it's in never taking to the sky. It's becoming only a fraction of the person they are capable of becoming with the required sacrifice and courage. It's an understanding that people aren't wrong for initially thinking small, playing to not lose, thinking only to protect, protect, protect. That's how human beings arrive out of the factory, right? Stock! And you can thank millennia of evolution for that. A person isn't weak for being scared. They aren't less than for shaking when they stand face to face with the adversity of life. Again, this is what being human is. But what humans also possess is the ability to understand these default limitations and transform them. To understand being scared of the world around us was incredibly valuable forever ago, right? When humans roamed around hunting and gathering, it made sense not to inquire further when there was a shaking in the bushes. It made sense not to rashly run into the cave. It made sense to fear deeply the prospect of being abandoned by their small tribe that was the only reassurance separating them from the vast unknown lurking in the darkness, the wilderness. But anyone listening to this today must also understand that these biological drivers are outdated. The lions in the bushes are no more. The caves are generally metaphorical. And one's tribe should be carefully and methodically chosen, right? Civilization provides that cushion, and what a luxury. So when life pushes back, and it will, and a person feels like they're on that ledge, they will want to turn back. Not because they're weak, but because they've forgotten that the voice in their head screaming in fear can't see the upside. It's blind to the possibility. It only sees downside. It only says, hey, this might bring about discomfort. There are things out there you don't know, foreign entities, possibly adversaries. Why would you even contemplate taking that leap? And that's where they must step in and provide reassurance. Yeah, things could go wrong. But the wrong steps are one, usually reversible, and two, provide the wisdom that they need. It gives a person a chance to inject into the conversation that if things go right, their life changes. That this could be the beginning. And that people don't truly live until the excitement about what life can become if things work out is greater than the fear of what life would regress into if they didn't. Without upside, there's no hope. Without hope, there is no purpose. And as Viktor Frankl has said, life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Everyone is operating within the same parameters, same playing field. But the difference is they have different soundtracks, interpretations, and narratives playing behind their eyes. One person may see the world collapsing and spend the rest of their life mourning what is gone, while another may see the same devastation and bring themselves to wonder, well, what can I build in its place? What can arise from the wreckage? Same circumstance, different storyline, different result. Many often cringe when they hear mindset misinterpreted as this magical thing that becomes reality the second someone closes their eyes and makes a wish. Like the law of attraction, as far as it concerns anyone, is not magic. The whole song and dance is much simpler than that. People act in accordance to the things they believe. And if they believe they're not good enough, if they believe they're not worthy, If they believe more is out of the question, what incentive do they have to change? None. It's much easier to default to hating the world when that's the perspective. But when a person can find the discipline, even for a moment, to pause and ask, well, what if things got better? What if my life could be more? That spark has suddenly given them a reason to take another step forward. It's made an argument as to why that discomfort just might be worth it. The magic isn't that they wished for it, and so it was. The magic is that they saw it as a possibility, and in doing so incentivized themselves to move towards that outcome. It's hard to gravitate towards something that has not yet been built. It's hard to stand with conviction in defense of a life that hasn't yet materialized. But that, my friends, is the beauty and mystery of life. People don't get what they want until they start living like they already have it. Like they can touch it, taste it, like it's real. So when the journey feels impossible, know that you are on the right track. People are competing against some very formidable adversaries, their very DNA. They're competing against the people around them that don't understand. They're competing against the obstacles that make them question whether that conjured up castle in the air existing only in their head could ever come to fruition. That is some resistance. But as they step forward into the haze, their single solitary acts of courage will begin to tell a story, to take shape. The once make-believe will become tangible. They'll see the pieces coming together and they'll see themselves as the one capable of assembling them. An architect of sorts, a designer, one with courage and self-belief. The truth is people will never completely mitigate fear. That will be with them forever. It's par for the course. They just need to remember that the power of purpose, of meaning, the value of upside and opportunity is greater than that nagging voice of fear. It's not about closing their eyes to who they are or where they've been. There's beauty in all that. It's merely about opening them to all they can become. There is one person who can save anyone, and that person exists in the mirror. Recently, someone was doing an audit of some of the most important conversations they've ever had. Mentors, friends, coaches, people that have changed their life, people that they love and are beyond grateful for. And they started going one by one. What did they learn from this person? What was it that they took away from them? And in one way or another, across the board, the answer was the same. It was some variation of confidence. It was belief that they could step into that next chapter, that they have what it takes, that the unknown wasn't impenetrable. In fact, the unknown is inviting. And truthfully, not many people started from the same starting point, where they essentially had to learn every step of the way that they were good enough, had to reteach themselves that they belonged where they were, that the room that they were in, there was a reason they were there, that the circle they were in, they earned a right to be in that circle. They say confidence is earned, and they had to continuously earn it. And they value that progression. Truly. For a few reasons. One, because they've been on the other side. And when they see other people making that ascent, they do everything they can to make them feel welcome and comfortable. But the second thing is, they understand at a deep level how much of success is simply believing you are worthy of it. Looking at the things they do now, so much of it is just because they allowed themselves to do it. At some point, they looked around and said, "You are worthy of this." Believe it. Step into it. There's nothing stopping you but you. And they've seen the power of someone near and dear to them once saying, walking into a room like God sent you. It's not a fake it till you make it game. It's believing in your heart that you are worthy game. No one who's achieved success on a consistent basis got there accidentally. At some point, they looked at that reflection and said, "Hey, this is me." At some point, they looked around and said, "There is no difference between me and the people who have done great things." Those people just gave themselves the green light and chose to stay consistent. I can do that. You can do that. Everybody can do that. Will they? That's the question. No one can save anyone because no one can make them believe. No one, when their eyes open in the morning, can position their mindset to say, today is mine. The world is my opportunity. No one can convince them that they're capable of magic on their short time on this planet. That's an internal decision. Do they believe they are worthy of it? And if not, let's get them to that point. That's the name of the game. Look hard at that reflection and remind yourself that you have everything you need to begin. Not a few things or some things, everything you need. You're good enough. What's required is giving yourself permission to go on whatever journey you deem important. It's allowing yourself to tap into the strength that's already there. Be resilient. Chip away little by little every day. That's it. That's the formula. Approach that lane with tenacity and drive, and life changes. As the saying goes, days turn into months, which turn into years, and people look back and see they're not the same person they once were. They see that they had this potential all along. They just had to give it life. See, people attribute complexity to things they don't understand. They assume people on mountaintops were placed there, that they had godlike abilities. And it's like, no, they just believed they were worthy and stepped forward into the night. Just like a seed must be planted, people too must give their potential the opportunity to be nourished by what's around them. When the alarm clock goes off, eyes open, and feet touch the ground in the morning, remember that getting what you want is far less complex than you think. It's simple. Not easy, but it's simple. Say yes to more and start walking down the road. And you'll change, you'll adjust, you'll evolve. There will be times when you backtrack, course correct, and perhaps even switch lanes altogether. But the gift of going is the best gift you'll have ever presented to yourself. No one is coming to save you, and when you realize how powerful you are, you will have not wanted it any other way. One has long believed that the solution to even our biggest problems, our toughest tasks, our greatest challenges, they can be solved, or at least the process of solving them can begin exactly where you are, using only what you already have. Meaning the solution to your problem exists in the room with you, an arm's length away. You might hear that and think, that's way too good to be true. That's too idealistic. That's too simple. But what needs to be explained is how the most important changes we make in life, the things that matter the most, they're simple. Incredibly simple. And it's only our tendency to make things unnecessarily complex that becomes the problem. One of the favorite thinkers, Thomas Sowell, once said, people who pride themselves on their complexity and deride others for being simplistic should realize that the truth is often not very complicated. What gets complex is evading the truth. And he's coming at this more societally from a political angle, but so many of these things in the big picture in the macro, they make sense in the micro. Hearing this, one thinks at a personal level this is so true. You should see the things people come up with in their minds when they're procrastinating or dragging their feet on something. This angle, that angle, what if this happens or that? Have I thought about A? What about B? What about C? And they usually dance around these things until they remember, we've been here before. No! Turn the internal dialogue off and start. Go! Put the project into motion. Breathe life into the pursuit. Then, it's off to the races. It's not that complicated. You go before you're ready and you adjust along the way. Let's look at a few personal examples. Headaches. Many have battled with them plenty. They've almost completely disappeared from their life. Knock on wood. If that was the suitcase scenario, they were doing everything but addressing the root cause. Ibuprofen every day, seeing doctors, different medicines, CAT scans, you name it. What helped? Electrolyte tablets. They did everything but that. Sports injuries, right? Constantly dealing with stuff. And they still are to some extent, but stretching has made a monumental difference. Just waking up in the morning and stretching for 10 minutes. Or writing output, having a block of time in the morning where every day they write no matter what. Diet, here's the magic solution. Don't have bad stuff in the cabinet. These aren't of little consequence. They're decisions that have drastically changed lives. And they know they're right because they look at them now and it's like it just feels so obvious. But they only seem obvious in hindsight. When you're moving forward, they feel complex and messy and impossible. You know how difficult life feels when you can't open your eyes because of a headache? The last thing someone was thinking was, get some electrolyte tablets off Amazon. They were way bigger than that. It was, I hope whoever has to cut my head open and perform surgery knows what they're doing. People think the solutions need to be as painful as the problem. No! The reason people are still there, stuck in the issue, is because they put the problem on a pedestal. And one firmly believes that. So, the ask is to take a second and think about your life. Truly. Think about where you are in the so-called obstacles before you and pretend you had to distill life down into its simplest form. If you had to, and I mean had to, find a solution right now where you are, where would you start? If you had to do one thing today that would give you the biggest bang for your buck, what could that look like? Solutions are not as big as the problem, and that's why they're hidden in plain sight. That's why people walk right by them. They think they need a team of Harvard neurologists when they need electrolyte tablets. Use what you have where you are, because where you are answers live. Maybe it doesn't fix the problem overnight, but it'll get you closer to a solution than the obstacle you've unknowingly transformed into a 7'8", four-handed monster with razor-sharp teeth. You have this. You can slay this dragon and come out on top. Just one, believe it, and two, open your eyes. That combination seems to work miracles. If you leave the door cracked, when things get difficult, you will most definitely kick it open. If you have a plan B, when things get too challenging or complex, you'll most definitely abandon plan A. To truly succeed is to cut off the lifelines. It's to commit to the road filled with adversity and struggle and hardship, but that leads to that which is meaningful. Over the weekend, someone was invited to join their friend Evan Carmichael at his mastermind to talk a little bit about YouTube and their experience with it, their progression over the years. And it was a blast. Incredible group, some amazing conversation. And there was a moment in particular that stuck out. They were talking about essentially the journey from 0 subscribers to where they are now. Some tips, inflection points along the way. And they pulled up behind them this chart that shows basically 7 years of minimal growth, starting in 2014, going all the way up to 2021, where suddenly you see that flat line spike, right? The channel sort of leaps to the next stratosphere. 4x, then 5x, then 10x, then 20x. After years of consistency, you see this sort of exponential curve. And the point was, they didn't change their craft at all. They were speaking and sharing stories the same way that they always had, the way that they loved to do it. What changed was the packaging. It was the titling and the thumbnail images and the branding. Stuff that because they enjoyed and were immersed so deeply in the creative process that they kind of ignored. All that stuff was an afterthought, which is funny when you think about it. To work so hard on something and then to sort of mail in or not pay attention to the marketing component that opens the door to what you're offering. So that was what would flip the switch. And they were thinking the group would want to dive fully into it. Okay, what were those thumbnail adjustments? What was the titling? What was the branding that you did? But to their surprise, people were far more interested in, how the hell did you not quit during 7 years of minimal growth? How'd you do that? Were you tempted to quit? Did it cross your mind? And so, they've been thinking more and more about that question. And there are a variety of reasons. First and foremost, they genuinely love what they do. They saw those 7 years every day getting up to dive into this as a chance to do something truly meaningful. They felt in their own personal world like they were doing something that mattered. And to them, that's foundational. The metric wasn't necessarily YouTube numbers. They were aware, don't get me wrong, but they would just be excited when they finished a speech if they felt it was powerful. Their game was trying to move themselves to tears playing back something they created. If it was powerful to them, that would be a W. Maybe it won't get millions of views, but they know this is good. It's like the Oprah metaphor. When Oprah walks into a bakery and declares it amazing, suddenly everyone hears Oprah and wants the cakes and the donuts or whatever's in the bakery. That doesn't mean the bakery suddenly got amazing overnight. It just means it was discovered. The baker knew he or she was making good stuff. They've been following that course all along. And so that same idea pulled them through. Second, they didn't leave the door cracked at all. They knew this is what they were going to do. This is the arena they were going to continuously attempt to improve in. And they were either going to be poor doing this or successful doing this. But they were going to do it. And so that saved a lot of internal deliberation when something they created failed or the result was underwhelming. There's nothing for them to discuss. They'd have bad days, absolutely. There were days where they felt so down on themselves that they couldn't get out of bed. Few and far between, but it happened. Felt like they were letting their family down at times. Felt like they were a disappointment. Felt like they were losing some imaginary race. All part of the process. But here's what they always did. They recovered and kept going. They regained perspective. They got on the phone with people that mattered to them. They recalibrated and they continued on. Like, you take your L's. That's life. You give yourself time to cope when you're down. But you carry on. You give yourself a chance. Part of this mentality comes from being on the rowing team or crew team in college. They weren't the greatest by any stretch. But they learned to suffer. They learned that to win means you have to get your ass kicked. That's just how it goes. And that was valuable when the race course changed from 2,000 meters on the water to the creative entrepreneurial space. Suffering does not mean you win, but a refusal to suffer ensures you will lose. Next, they focused on adding value. There has to be an exchange of value. And they were getting messages from people saying, your work helped me. Wasn't a substantial influx of people reaching out, but there's an idea that if you can help one person, you can help 1 million people. It's not a can I do it question. It's a logistics question. It's a scaling question. Which means it's just a matter of time. It was all just tying to the self-belief. Understanding that there was a way to scale that value. When you approach your mission not with is it possible, but how do I make it happen, you drastically increase your odds in anything you do. Next, they believed, and this is perhaps the most important, that they were always one decision away from a totally different life. One creation away from that change that they've been looking for. And when you believe this and failure occurs, the mind simply asks, okay, what's next? Imagine you're shooting three-pointers. There's a rack of basketballs next to you. You miss a shot. You're probably not going to break down, start weeping, convince yourself to take up soccer. No, you're going to reach over, grab the next ball, and shoot again. The possibility of what's next trumps the previously missed shot because of the opportunity, because it's there, because it's tangible, because you just have to pick it up and fire away again. And life provides, using the same metaphor, an endless rack of basketballs. It will allow you to shoot as many shots as you're willing to shoot. The next one could be the one that falls. And every rep increases that likelihood. Just like your next creation could be the one that changes everything. Lastly, there was a continued commitment to adjust. See, if you're not winning, if you're falling short, yet you continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, you're not going to improve. It's continuously showing up, it's commitment, it's consistency, but there has to be a willingness to evolve. There has to be some type of learned advantage. So next time you show up, you're a little bit smarter, a little bit more intelligent. It's that commitment to try, adjust that ultimately, over time, compounds into something bigger than the sum of its parts. There's this saying, you can't stop someone who refuses to quit. That's right on the money. But it's important to note, implied in that quote is that the person doesn't just keep trying to jam that square peg into the round hole. No, they're asking every day, what's one little thing I can do better? When I reapproach it next time, how can I be a little smarter? That's the magic. So, yeah, that graph prompted so many questions. When you look back in totality, it looks huge. But really, it was just a person every day doing what they loved, making little adjustments over time with no plan B. That's all. Taking the setbacks in stride, always thinking about the next creation. And what's even more exciting is that this is not some remarkable skill set. It's not some powerhouse ability someone was born with. Anyone can commit to a process. And even better news, if you utilize your resources, seek help and guidance from those that have been down the same road, your exponential growth can occur way faster than 7 years. Just don't leave that door cracked. Life will ask everyone the question every single day, what if you fall? And they will feel that fear. They will feel that trembling in their chest. They will feel that voice screaming at them to turn back, to protect what they have, to stay where it's safe. But they have a choice. They can let that fear win. They can spend their life mourning what could have been, wondering what might have happened if they had just taken that step. Or they can step forward into the unknown, into the haze, into the possibility. They can choose to believe that they are worthy. They can choose to close the door behind them so there's no turning back. They can choose to see the solution that's right in front of them. They can choose to fall again and again and again until they finally fly. Because the danger is not in falling. It's in never taking to the sky. So the question is asked today. What if you flew? What if this was the beginning? What if your life could be more? The answers are within you. The strength is within you. The possibility is within you. You have everything you need to begin. Not a few things or some things, everything you need. You're good enough. Now go. Step forward. Close the door behind you. And fly.